They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but in this next tale, love turned to hate, turning cold to ice. This is the chilling story of a husband's revenge. I met my wife online. We connected instantly. 2 weeks later, we had our first date, followed by our first kiss a week later. It was magical. 9 months later, we were married. She was pregnant. We bought baby supplies and prepared for the new life. A month later, she miscarried. Naturally, I consoled her, helping her through the tragedy. A year passed. We decided to try again. In January 2021, she got pregnant. We were ecstatic. 3 months later, our son was born. Our joy knew no bounds. One day, my wife found a lump in her breast. I drove her to the hospital for tests. Days later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Fearful, I promised to stand by her, comforting her through the pain and surgeries ahead. 6 months later, she was declared cancer-free. Relief washed over me as I embraced her, whispering vows of eternal love and support. Fast forward 3 years. Our son was thriving. My wife was recovering from her ordeal, but problems loomed. First, my father-in-law passed away. Grief-stricken, my wife grew distant, seeking solace in her parents' home. A month later, she separated from me, moving back in with her mum. Worried for our son's sake, I convinced her to reconsider. She agreed to come back, but a part of her remained with her parents. My son sensed the tension, asking why Mummy wasn't happy. Heartbroken to see my son suffering, I promised to fix things. Days turned into weeks, but nothing changed. My son continued to cry, begging for his mother to return. Desperate to save my family, I asked my wife for another chance. She agreed, setting one condition: counseling. We attended sessions separately and together. My wife spoke of her fears and uncertainties. I did my best to address her concerns, hoping to rebuild trust and intimacy. One session, she told me she still loved me, but she couldn't give me what I wanted: a physical relationship. My world crumbled. Was our marriage doomed forever? Despite the distance, I cared deeply for my wife and son. Seeing them happy was my priority. So I decided to let her live with her parents, allowing my son to visit whenever he wanted. My wife was surprised by my acceptance of the situation, but appreciated my understanding. Months passed. My son alternated between living with his mother and me. We maintained a civil relationship, always putting our son's needs first. But I couldn't help but miss my wife terribly. One day, she contacted me, suggesting we meet. As I sat across from her, a glimmer of hope ignited within me. Could this be it? Was she ready to reconcile? But my hopes were dashed when she informed me of her decision to divorce me, stating that she no longer loved me. Crushed, I begged for a second chance, promising to work on her concerns. She listened patiently, but remained firm in her decision. There had been a crack in our marriage since her cancer battle, and it seemed the final blow had landed. The divorce proceedings were swift. We split our assets, and I agreed to sole custody, grateful that my son would primarily live with her. We formalized everything, and the divorce was finalized. Though heartbroken, I moved forward, focusing on my career and personal growth. Yet my past haunted me. My ex-wife seemed to be thriving, sharing pictures of her travels and outings on social media, seemingly happy without me. My son visited every other weekend. He was doing well, excelling in both school and sports. Then, out of the blue, she contacted me, requesting that I buy plane tickets for her and our son to visit me. Confused, I obliged. On the day of their arrival, I picked them up at the airport. My son ran to me, but my ex-wife remained distant, her eyes filled with icy coldness. At home, my son played video games while his mother watched. Suddenly, she turned to me, revealing a wedding ring on her finger. Her words pierced me like shards of glass. "We're no longer on good terms," she stated bluntly. "I've moved on, and I expect you to do the same." I looked at my smiling son, then back at my ex-wife. I had a choice: either shatter my son's happiness or swallow my pain and let her go. I chose my son's happiness. Now, despite the sting of her betrayal and the pain of their departure, I cherish the moments we shared. My son's laughter echoes in my ears, reminding me of the beautiful family we once were. I may never know why she chose to marry someone else, but I'll always prioritize my son's happiness. As for my ex-wife, I silently wish her well-being, hoping she finds contentment in her new journey. Each of these stories is a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of what appears to be a normal human relationship. Love, obsession, revenge, madness, they all share one common thread: the fragility of the human psyche. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue exploring the depths of human experience, click the link above to subscribe to our channel and join a community of over 6 million viewers who are captivated by the darkest tales and most unsettling mysteries. This was terrifying. Thank you for sharing this story. And please, if you are in this kind of situation, reach out to a trusted friend or family member or authority figure, someone like that, because you deserve to feel safe in your own home. I also want to say thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for making videos like this one possible. Now, like many people, I tend to worry a lot. I worry about my health, the health of my family, the state of the world. But recently, I've been trying to turn that worry into action by addressing some of those concerns head-on. For example, I've been taking steps to improve my own mental health by talking to a therapist. Talking to someone who is trained to help you work through your problems can really make a difference. It provides a safe space to discuss things that might be bothering you, and having that safe space has been really helpful to me. And if you're looking for a convenient, affordable way to access therapy, consider online therapy through BetterHelp. It's the easiest and fastest way to get matched with a therapist that fits your needs. All you need to do is fill out a short questionnaire. It asks you questions about your background and what you're hoping to get out of therapy. Then a licensed professional will personally review your answers and match you with a therapist based on their areas of expertise and availability. You can choose to meet with your therapist via phone, video call, or even live chat. Plus, if you decide that the therapist just isn't right for you, you can switch to a new one at any time. So if you're interested, click the link in the description below to sign up and get 10% off your first month. Remember, you can't always control the cards you're dealt, but you can control how you play them. So take the first step towards a happier, healthier you. Again, that's the link in the description below. Thank you, BetterHelp. This next story comes from Real Scary. I grew up on an isolated farm in Wales with my 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Our parents had split up when we were quite young, and we lived with our dad, who did his best to raise us. He was a hard worker and barely ever took a day off from his job as a gravedigger. Dad was old-fashioned and believed that chores and hard work were important to teach us discipline and responsibility. Every morning we got up early and did chores such as cleaning, milking cows, gathering eggs, tending to the vegetable garden, and helping with the animals. Occasionally, depending on the season, we would also have to chop wood. For some reason, chopping wood always turned into a competition between me and my brothers. This particular Saturday, my brother, who was 6 years older than me, decided to show me up in front of Dad by throwing the hatchet and splitting the log clean in half. Being the competitive sort, I wanted to impress our dad and one-up my brother. I lined myself up, swung the hatchet, and felt something give way. I didn't know what. I hit the log and watched with fascination as it split clean in half, just like my brother had done moments before. However, the split continued and the log split into smaller and smaller pieces until it was completely obliterated. Now, what was supposed to be a big, heavy log was now nothing more than splinters and sawdust. Panicked, I dropped the hatchet, expecting Dad to march up to me and give me a stern lecture. But he simply stared at the remains of the log in stunned silence. "Good God," he finally said, shaking his head in disbelief. "That's not good, son," he added, his tone implying that what I'd done was much worse than I imagined. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but later that evening, while I was hanging out with my brothers and sisters in the living room, we could hear Dad pacing back and forth in his bedroom. Suddenly, he burst out of his bedroom, wild-eyed and shouting, "Who broke the cursed log?" he screamed. "Who did this?" I knew he was talking about the log I'd destroyed earlier. But why was he so angry? Was I in trouble? Before anyone could answer, he stormed off again and slammed the door. We were all stunned into silence. No one dared speak a word as we all tried to figure out what Dad was going on about. Hadn't he noticed it was me who broke the log? Why hadn't he punished me? Silence stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only a few minutes. Then my dad came out of his bedroom again, this time with my oldest brother. "Come on," he told my brother. Without another word, they both walked out of the house and disappeared into the darkness. I have no idea how long they were gone for. Time seemed to stop. None of us spoke a word. We just sat there staring at the wall. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, Dad and my brother came back into the house. "Get packed," Dad told my brother. "We're leaving." My brother, confused, started to protest, but Dad cut him off. "You'll explain everything to me later," he said, his tone brooking no argument. And with that, he helped my brother pack a small duffel bag full of clothes. They walked out of the house for the final time, and this time they didn't come back. I never saw my brother again. Apparently, he'd run away from home after Dad discovered that he'd been stealing money from his employer to buy drugs. I still have no idea what any of that had to do with the log, but I am pretty sure that Dad blamed me for breaking it because he was too proud to ask questions or admit that he'd been wrong. If he'd come and spoken to me about it, I would have apologized, but I never got the chance. And all these years later, I still wonder, was I in trouble, or was my brother, or was it both of us? The terror of knowing someone is always watching, always near, yet never truly present is one of the most disturbing feelings one can experience. In the midst of these unsettling encounters, I discovered my sanctuary invaded by unseen eyes. How could she have known? How could she have tracked me down after I'd vanished completely? To my horror, the truth unfolded in the most chilling way imaginable. I found myself entangled in a terrifying game of cat and mouse with an obsession so profound, so inescapable, that it led me to believe I was merely a pawn in her twisted desires. She wasn't trying to hurt me or capture me. I realized with a growing sense of dread she just wanted to destroy me by being my constant shadow, my unseen stalker. She wanted to drive me insane, and she was doing exactly that. As I moved from one hiding place to another, each location becoming more remote, more secure. The letters persisted, appearing as if by magic, always one step ahead of me. Each message chipped away at my sanity, turning my world upside down and inside out. The fear she instilled in me knew no bounds. I transformed into a prisoner in my own life, haunted by the mere possibility of her presence lurking around every corner. The fear of discovery, of being found by her, became my constant companion. Fearful of her relentless pursuit, I abandoned the life I once knew, severing ties with friends, family, colleagues. Isolate myself completely from everyone and everything I once held dear. It was the only way I thought I could escape her clutches. But as I delved deeper into my own personal hell, I encountered something unexpected, an unexpected glimmer of support. Unexpected voices reached out, offering solace and understanding. It was through these connections that I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. In sharing my story, I found strength in numbers, realizing that together we could make a difference. My tormentor must have thought that isolation was my only fate, yet she underestimated the power of human connection. As I shared my tale of terror, I also learned that my stalker's actions weren't unique. Other stories of obsessive stalking emerged, creating a tapestry of experiences that mirrored my own. I discovered that I wasn't alone in this terrifying ordeal, and now I stand before you today to amplify those voices, to ensure that the narratives of stalkers like Marissa are heard, understood, and taken seriously. Let us come together to demand justice, to advocate for change, and to protect those who find themselves trapped in the nightmare of stalking. I'm here to tell you that the path to recovery is arduous, marked by setbacks and moments of intense fear and uncertainty. The scars of stalking run deep, penetrating the depths of one's soul and leaving lasting impacts that extend far beyond the initial ordeal. Rebuilding trust, facing the trauma, and reclaiming one's life becomes a journey fraught with challenges. But let me emphasize that you are not alone on this path. Reach out to support groups, seek professional help, and lean on those who genuinely care about you. The road may be long and winding, but with the right support system by your side, you can and you will emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. My story is not just my own. It's a reflection of the countless individuals who have faced the torment of obsessive stalking. By sharing it, I hope to create a ripple effect, a wave of awareness that crashes against the shores of apathy, forcing us to confront this disturbing reality. We must acknowledge the existence of obsessive stalkers, understand their tactics, and recognize the profound impact they have on their victims. Only then can we begin to dismantle the silence, shatter the stigma, and pave the way for justice. So let us stand united, raise our voices, and become the catalyst for change. Together, we can create a world where stalking is not tolerated, where victims are supported, and where stalkers like Marissa face accountability for their actions. The fight for justice and healing has begun. It's time to join the movement. There are some disturbing similarities between the story of Grace's controlling ex-boyfriend, Tommy's eerie anonymous messages, and Marissa's obsessive cross-country stalking. At first glance, these stories seem wildly different, but dig a little deeper, and the parallels are chilling. In each case, the initial signs went unrecognized or were even welcomed by the victims. Grace found herself strangely monitored by her boyfriend. Tommy thought the extra attention from a new acquaintance was flattering, and Marissa enjoyed the romantic persistence of a suitor who wouldn't take no for an answer. Only later did they realize the unsettling truth: they were experiencing stalking behavior. Let's break this down into 3 essential elements that all 3 stories have in common. First, let's talk about Grace's ex-boyfriend, who showed up at her workplace uninvited, consistently questioned her whereabouts, and violently assaulted her when she ended the relationship. Similarly, Tommy sent anonymous messages to Amy, making her wonder if she was being stalked or harassed. And Marissa crossed state lines to follow her ex, breaking into his home and leaving cryptic notes. On the surface, these actions may seem very different, but delve deeper and you'll find alarming similarities. In each case, the perpetrator exhibited an overwhelming need to know the victim's every move, to monitor and control their actions. This excessive monitoring is a classic sign of stalking behavior. It reflects the stalker's inability to accept that the other person has autonomy, has the right to make choices independent of the stalker's desires. Love respects boundaries. Obsession does not. The second element these stories share is the escalation pattern. Stalking behavior rarely starts out in full force. It often begins with seemingly innocuous actions that gradually escalate over time. In the beginning, Grace's boyfriend was attentive and charming. Tommy was just a friendly face in Amy's building. And Marissa's unwanted advances were annoying, but not yet dangerous. However, as the stories unfold, the behaviors intensify. Grace's boyfriend became possessive and violent. Tommy's messages grew increasingly threatening, and Marissa's stalking escalated to intrusion and harassment. This pattern is typical of stalking cases. It usually begins with monitoring and questioning, then advances to violating boundaries and personal space. It often includes threats, intimidation, and attempts to control the victim's behavior before culminating in physical stalking and potential violence. The frightening thing is that this escalation often mirrors the progression of abusive relationships. The stalker initially appears charming and attentive, but as the relationship develops, their behavior becomes more controlling and aggressive. Before long, the victim is trapped in a cycle of fear, manipulation, and abuse. Finally, the third disturbing similarity among these stories is the perpetrator's distorted sense of justification. In each case, the stalker genuinely believed their behavior was motivated by love. Grace's boyfriend truly thought he had the right to know her every move, but Tommy believed sending Amy messages was just looking out for her. And Marissa convinced herself that following across the country was romantic persistence, not criminal harassment. This twisted logic allows stalkers to rationalize harmful behavior. They believe they're acting out of love or concern, not obsession and control. And it poses a significant challenge to victims, because stalkers who genuinely believe they re-justified are often unwilling to accept rejection or breakups. They see any attempt to end the relationship as a threat to their love, which can escalate the situation into violence. So, what can we learn from these stories? Firstly, it's crucial to recognize the warning signs of stalking behavior: excessive monitoring, escalation, and a sense of distorted justification. Secondly, we must acknowledge the failure of the system. Law enforcement often struggles to intervene effectively until someone gets hurt. And that leaves victims vulnerable for extended periods. Finally, we need to break the silence surrounding stalking. Encourage friends and family to speak out, seek help, and build a support network to monitor for suspicious activity. Early intervention and support can significantly impact a stalking situation, helping victims stay safe and receive timely assistance. Remember, love respects boundaries, but obsession does not. The terrifying reality of stalking, showcasing the unsettling persistence and calculated nature of stalkers. But these narratives also highlight the resilience of the human spirit and the power of strategic thinking under extreme pressure. Each victim made critical decisions that likely saved their lives, and their experiences offer valuable lessons for anyone who might find themselves in similar situations. Our next post explores the chilling ordeal of a man named Grace who found himself stalked by an obsessive fan. Grace's stalker, armed with a shocking level of personal information, managed to infiltrate his life and escalate his harassment to the point of kidnapping. Yet Grace's quick thinking and ability to adapt proved instrumental in escaping his captor's clutches and ultimately surviving the ordeal. In the second story, we meet Amy, a young woman whose stalker, Tommy, seemed determined to sabotage her new relationship by subjecting her to a campaign of emotional manipulation and psychological torment. Despite repeated efforts from Amy and her friends to shut him down, Tommy's behavior only intensified, forcing Amy to confront the disturbing lengths to which he would go to maintain his hold over her. The third story revolves around Marissa, whose stalker, driven by a distorted sense of entitlement and a refusal to accept the end of their relationship, launched a multi-state stalking campaign over a span of months. This individual relentlessly pursued Marissa, violating her privacy, exploiting her vulnerabilities, and employing a range of manipulative tactics to regain control over her life. What victims did right? What stands out in all three cases is the victim's resourcefulness in the face of terrifying circumstances. Grace, upon discovering his stalker's true intentions, immediately took steps to protect himself. He demonstrated remarkable adaptability, changing his phone number, email addresses, and even his appearance to evade his stalker. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Grace also kept his friends informed, ensuring someone was always aware of his whereabouts. His friends played a crucial role in supporting him, checking in regularly and providing companionship. Grace's vigilance extended to documenting every incident, keeping detailed records of his stalker's behavior. This meticulous documentation proved invaluable when seeking help from law enforcement and the courts. Amy, too, displayed remarkable tenacity and presence of mind. Upon realizing the extent of Tommy's obsession, she wasted no time in confronting him. She swiftly obtained a restraining order and notified the police. Amy's determination to protect her own boundaries and enlist support from authorities was instrumental in helping her cope with the stress of being stalked. Marissa's story highlights the importance of involving others in one's safety plan. Though she initially tried to handle the situation on her own, she eventually confided in friends and family, enlisting their support in navigating the complexities of the stalking situation. Her support network provided crucial emotional backing and practical assistance in altering her living arrangements and enhancing her personal security. All three victims eventually recognized that their stalkers couldn't be reasoned with or appeased. They understood that the stalker's behaviors stemmed from deep-rooted issues that wouldn't be resolved through dialogue or compromise. This realization led them to adopt a firmer stance, distancing themselves from their stalkers and actively seeking legal and emotional support. Each victim took significant steps toward recovery by involving law enforcement. While police intervention didn't always immediately halt the stalking behavior, the official documentation of incidents and creation of police reports provided crucial evidence for restraining orders and for establishing a pattern of harassment, building a support network. All three victims faced challenges in confiding in others about their experiences due to factors like fear, shame, and a desire to protect their own image. However, those who eventually opened up to friends, family members, and support groups found the strength and resources necessary to navigate their situations more effectively. Sharing their stories not only lightened their emotional burdens, but also provided them with practical advice and emotional support, using technology to your advantage. While stalkers often utilize technology to their advantage, victims, too, can harness the power of technology to enhance their safety. Security cameras, GPS tracking apps, smartphone features such as emergency contacts and location sharing can all play a vital role in personal security. However, victims must also be cautious about their own digital footprint, regularly reviewing privacy settings, being mindful of location sharing, using secure communication methods, and safeguarding personal information. Recovering from the trauma. Recovering from the trauma of stalking is a multifaceted journey that extends beyond the immediate crisis. It involves addressing the emotional and psychological impact of the experience, which may include PTSD, anxiety, hypervigilance, and disrupted sleep patterns. Therapy. Support groups and self-care practices can significantly aid in this process, allowing victims to reclaim their lives and find healing. These stories serve as powerful reminders that stalking, while a deeply traumatic experience, does not define one's entire life story. With the right support, victims can not only survive but thrive, turning their experiences into catalysts for growth, resilience, and empowerment. The true victory lies in breaking free from the shackles of fear and reclaiming one's life on one's own terms.